We've talked about the vicious cycle of depression so far, and we've looked at how, inactivity and withdrawal can really keep our depressed mood going. So in terms of wrapping up today's session, I thought we could spend a little bit of time with me introducing to you the homework for this week. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah? Okay, great. I was hoping that we could do a little bit of monitoring about your week. One of the things that we know about monitoring is it helps to build our awareness about what goes on in a day-to-day basis. Oftentimes when we're depressed, a lot of time can pass by and we might have missed out on the little details about what happens in our day. So monitoring is a way of being able to record some of those activities that we are getting in our day so that we can establish some patterns between the activities that we do and the impact that it's having on our mood. Is that something you'd like to hear more about?
Yeah, we can have a look at that.
Okay, that's great. So what I've got with me is something that we call a weekly activity schedule, and I'll talk you through and then give you a bit of a chance to go through it before we wrap up today. Basically, this is like a timetable. You can see the times on the left-hand column, and you can change the times that are on the column as you want. At this point, what's on the worksheet is that it goes from 8 a.m. all the way to 12 a.m.
Right.
Depending on what your sleep routines are like at the moment, feel free to, change the times, okay? What we want to do is capture what your day looks like, and so across the different columns you'll see there's Monday to Sunday. And I'll invite you to record the different activities that you do from the time that you wake up on each day to the time that you go to bed. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, I think I get it.
Okay. There are a few things that I encourage you to keep in mind when you're doing this recording. So one of the things that can happen when we're feeling depressed is that we might get through the day and have this feeling that we've done nothing in the day.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that's kind of what it seems like at the moment. I don't really do anything, so I'm not really sure what I'd be recording.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable. It comes back to that inactivity we talked about with depression.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to invite you to try this week is to tune into what exactly you're doing when you think that you're doing nothing. So that could be, for example, sitting on the couch and watching TV all day, or lying in bed all day. Let's see if you can have a go at filling me in yesterday.
I don't even think I probably didn't wake up until like 11 or something, so do I just put like asleep or in bed or something?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. Okay.
Do you remember what you did when you woke up?
I think like usually when I wake up, I don't even know how long I do this for, but I tend to just kind of lie there scrolling on my phone, checking Facebook, things like that.
Okay.
Sometimes for like, I don't know, an hour or something. Time just kind of goes.
Okay, let's capture that on the schedule.
Okay.
So you could put something like scrolling on the phone in bed.
Okay.
And what happened after?
I think I basically got out of bed because I was hungry. That's usually when I get out of bed. So I got some breakfast. That might have been around midday, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely pop that down because we want the schedule to reflect our routines as well. And that includes our sleep, things like meal times as well. What happened after breakfast?
I know. It's really hard to remember. I know I had stuff to do around the house. I didn't do it anywhere near as much as I was supposed to, but I got this massive pile of stuff to get through. But I think maybe I did a load of washing or something like that. Yeah, that's right. I did do a load of washing because I basically had run out of clothes. So I did that, but then I felt pretty exhausted. So I just kind of went and sat on the couch, and yeah, I find it really hard to remember exactly when things happened or...
And that's really understandable, Olivia. We've talked about how one of the symptoms of depression is that our concentration gets quite difficult, that even our memory might get quite hazy. And so one of the benefits that can come from monitoring is that we start to tune in and pay attention to these aspects of our day, and hopefully be able to build that attention back up so that we can make choices about our day in ways that are more effective for us. With our activity schedule, we're not aiming for a minute-by-minute account of what's happened in your week. We're really wanting to get a snapshot. So there might be times in which you aren't able to capture the specific times. A rough guide will do. So in terms of watching Netflix, roughly how many hours did you spend doing that? And how can we write that in your schedule?
I guess maybe like 1 until probably about 5 o'clock. I might have got hungry.
So block that time out between 1 and 5. And then you mentioned you ordered some Uber Eats. So put that down as well.
Alright.
What happened in the evening?
Well, I was feeling pretty bad. I was feeling like I haven't done anything today, and I'm supposed to be looking for jobs. So I went online to do this job search thing, but then I ended up just, looking at other stuff on the computer. I was kind of maybe on the computer for an hour or two. I didn't get much done though. So
let's capture that on your schedule as well, scrolling through the computer. This schedule is going to capture the things that you actually did. I know that there are going to be times in which you planned to do something, but it didn't turn out the way you want. What we want to do is write down the things that you actually ended up doing.
Okay.
Was there anything else that you got up to at night?
It's like seems to be, now I'm writing it down, there's all this time here, but I don't normally go to sleep until like 2 a.m, but I didn't do anything else that day. I think I normally, like, after the computer, I would just kind of lay on the... Oh no, I think I got into bed actually. I was watching TV, but like on my laptop. And just, I guess I was watching that until I fell asleep, but the last I checked it was definitely after 1, so
put that down as well.
Alright.
And once you get to the bottom of the page, do make that note that you went to sleep around 1 or 2 o'clock. And the last thing I'll invite you to do, Olivia, is to, at the bottom of the page, put a rating for your overall mood for the day. I know that as you were going through the schedule and recalling some of the things that you did, that you had shared with me that at points your mood wasn't too good. If you looked across the whole day and had to put a number out of 10 to represent your mood, 10 being the best mood that you've ever been in and 0 being the lowest mood that you've ever been in, where would you put your overall mood for yesterday?
It wasn't the worst day I've ever had, but maybe like a 3. Like, it was definitely not a good day.
So your mood was sitting fairly low for most of the day. I invite you to put that at the bottom of the page. So that we can start to look at patterns between your activities throughout the day and your mood. What was it like going through your Tuesday and trying to put your activities down on the page?
Like I said, it's amazing that I had such difficulty remembering it, given now it's all there on the page. I think I didn't even do much yesterday, and I think I get to the end of the day a lot and just feel like, I meant to do all this stuff. I had this idea in mind about what I'd get done, and I don't know, I don't feel great seeing, I was basically just in bed or watching TV for most of the day, but it's kind of how it is most of the time for me right now.
oftentimes people do comment on how overwhelming it can be to see on paper what their day and what their week looks like. And certainly, as we've talked about, with depression, sometimes there can be lots of empty gaps in our schedule, and that we can have lots of plans about what we want to do that don't turn out the way we want it to. One of the things that we will be working on in therapy is to be able to start reintroducing those different activities that have value and meaning to us. This activity schedule will help us to clarify a little bit about what's going on in your life at the moment, so that we can look for those opportunities, and so that I can support you to put some of those strategies in. How does it feel for you to have a go at that on your own for homework this week?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to have a go. I imagine most days will look pretty much the same, but I think if I write it down as I go, it'll be easier to remember. So I can have a go at that.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate your willingness in giving it a try. Are there any strategies or any ideas that you have that can make the task a bit easier for you this week?
I'm worried I might forget to do it some days, because like you said, my memory is not great. So I'm just trying to think where I could leave it that I might remember to do it. I guess like I said, I normally get out of bed to go get food, so I could either put it like by my bed or even on the fridge. I normally make myself a cup of tea in the morning, so I would probably see it there, and that would maybe remind me, I guess, to start it for the day. So.
Okay, those are two great ideas about where you can put this worksheet to prompt yourself to fill in the worksheet. As you might have noticed, it can be really difficult to remember what happened for you yesterday, let alone an entire week.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to have a go at perhaps setting a few minutes aside every day at a specific time of the day, and either check in if it's on your bedside table or if it's on the fridge, and have a go at filling it in. Does that sound manageable to you this week?
Yeah, I'm happy to give that a go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm really curious to find out what sorts of things you notice in your week when we come back to review it at next session. Okay, Olivia, how did you go with your monitoring over the last week?
Yeah, look, I managed to get it down every day, so I don't really know if I've done it right or got the right stuff down, but yeah.
Look, that's a great effort, especially considering how I recall from last week you were quite concerned about being able to remember everything and being able to capture things on your activity schedule. It's great work that you were able to finish the record. We're going to have a look at it today, and perhaps put a few ratings on the page about how you felt your week went overall. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah? Okay. I'm going to put a few different areas on the board that I'd like to invite you to rate. And as I put each one, I'll explain to you what I mean. So the first thing I'd like you to do is have a look at your week and rate how active you felt your week was. By active, I mean how many activities you felt that you were doing in the entire week, as opposed to the week being quite empty and full of gaps. And I'd like to invite you to rate it out of 10. 10 being the most active and busy week that you've had, and 0 being quite an empty and perhaps passive sort of week for you.
Gosh, well, I slept until like 11 or 12 every day. I mean, I didn't do nothing, but it's not all that active, so maybe like a 2 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pop that down on your paper too, so that we can keep a record and we can look back at this at the end of treatment as well.
Okay.
The second thing that I want you to rate is whether there were activities that you engaged in that were pleasurable, things that you enjoyed, things that were fun, things that were meaningful to you. 10 being the most pleasurable week that you had, And 0 being the things that you did were not pleasurable at all, were not enjoyable, were not fun.
Well, I guess I went out to dinner with some friends on Friday, which I haven't done in, I haven't been out with friends in ages, so that was kind of fun. And then one of them, I think, knew I was having not such a great time, so she called me on Sunday and we kind of chatted again. And so I guess overall, it was maybe a 4. It wasn't a particularly enjoyable week, but there were some times that were kind of nice, and I kind of enjoy watching TV a bit, and so yeah, a 4.
Okay, so in your recording you noticed that there were a few things that you were doing in your week that brought you some pleasure and some enjoyment, and you put that at a 4.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
What I really appreciate about what you're doing here, Olivia, is that rather than just honing on a specific day that you might have been dissatisfied about or the most difficult day in your week, that I can hear that you're trying to keep a broad view about the week in general. We can often fall into that trap of going to the most negative thing that has happened in our week and getting stuck on it. So I really appreciate that you're working hard to look at the week on the whole. Which leads me to the next rating, and that is sense of achievement. And this is whether you were doing things in the week that brought you a sense of achievement, things that you might have been putting off, let's say, or avoiding that you managed to finish, tasks and responsibilities that you took care of. Kind of see you shaking your head there.
Yeah. Not a lot, to be honest. I got a couple of things done. I had a rent inspection, so I did clean for that basically because I was forced to. I don't know. There's lots of things again that I was supposed to do or wanted to get done and I didn't. So I'd probably put that at a 2 maybe. Okay. So yeah, can't remember the last time I really felt a sense of achievement in a week. So not much.
What I'm hearing from you is that even though you were doing some pretty challenging things in your week, like preparing for the rent inspection and cleaning your house, it didn't give you that sense of, aha, I've done it, I've managed to do this.
Well, I did feel that a little on those days, but when I look back at the week on the whole, I kind of go, I don't know, I'm not doing very much. There's a lot of days where I didn't seem to really get much done at all. So yeah, I guess that's how I'd rate it right now.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at the final rating then, which is routines. And this is about how structured your week was. Whether you had planned lots of activities and did them, or whether things were more spontaneous. Whether you were able to keep fairly regular routines in terms of your sleep and your meal times. In this case, 10 would be having things fairly structured and planned and quite consistent from day to day, and 0 being that everything was changeable, that things were pretty inconsistent from day to day.
I mean, it's not totally all over the place, but it's not like I get up with an alarm or anything. I just kind of wake up when I wake up. I had a couple of things, obviously the rent inspection and the dinner with my friends, they were planned and I did them. So
I can hear them that wouldn't be entirely at a 0.
No, not a 0, but maybe in the past I've, when I was managing to work, I would get up at a certain time every day and go to work, and I don't know, it's a 3 compared to what maybe it's been in the past.
So relative to how you were before, your current lifestyle does not lend itself to a very structured schedule.
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for putting a few ratings on your weekly activity schedule. I also know that part of the monitoring last week was to record your mood overall from day to day. And I suppose what I'm curious about is looking at these ratings that you've put on your schedule in terms of how active you felt your week was, how pleasurable it was, whether you did things that brought you a sense of achievement, and whether it was fairly structured or quite spontaneous and unplanned. I'm curious to know whether you have noticed any patterns that might link these areas to how your mood was like across the week.
Well, my mood was, it was low for the whole, like it never got above a 4. Trying to have a look. The day it was the lowest, which was a 2. I I was like napping in the afternoon. I didn't do anything nice that day. Like this, I watched TV, but I don't know, that was, like that day looks pretty all over the place. There wasn't really much routine there.
Olivia, is what I'm hearing from you that at least on the day on which you noticed that your mood was lower, it was also associated with things like lower pleasure and fewer routines?
Yeah.
So if pleasure drops and routines drop, that your mood tends to be low as well.
Yeah, I guess that's the case. And like, I know, I said when I was working before, obviously, it's hard to tell which came first, but I was feeling better and I definitely had more of a routine at that time. I used to really like having kind of a routine to the day. I just don't have that anymore.
Okay.
I'm too exhausted.
Yeah. Sounds like the routines have had quite a huge impact on your mood and how you feel each day.
Yeah.
How about the level of activity as well as achievement? Are there any links there to your mood?
Well, it's interesting, the day that I went out with my friends, that was higher. Like, so for me, that was the one kind of social scheduled activity I had in the week, and I did that, and it, I never feel like doing those things. I don't really know how I got myself there, because I remember thinking I really didn't want to go, but I did, and that was probably one of the times I felt best in the week. And I know also, like my dog is always at me to go for a walk, and I feel really bad because I don't walk him as much as I should, but when I do, like I noticed there was I remembered on Monday when I was playing with him, like that was probably one of the times I felt a bit better as well. So I guess when I do stuff like that, it seemed to help a little this week.
Okay. That seems like really important information to keep in mind. That when you are active with things that bring you pleasure and things that give you a sense of accomplishing, such as whether it be catching up with your friends or taking care of your dog, taking him for a walk, that you tend to feel better generally. Would that be the case?
Yeah, it is. Like walking the dog, like I like it when I'm out. I don't ever feel like going, but once I do, he's such lovely company. I usually feel better, but I also feel like, okay, like I've taken care of him. That was the one most important thing I had to do today, and I do. Like that probably gives me a sense. Like that's probably one of the biggest senses of achievement I have at the moment, is knowing that I've taken good care of him. So that helps. Yeah.
That's a great example, and we'll come back to pick up on a few of those concepts later on in today's session. At this point, I'm curious to know if there were some areas that we could change. If you could change any of these areas, what would you like to see different in your life?
Well, like I said, the routine used to be, everything else just seemed to fall in around. If I had a routine and I got started on the day okay, other things seem to go better. I have no idea how to do that now, because I just have absolutely no idea. I don't feel like doing anything, whereas I used to do that stuff and it just kind of wasn't that hard.
And that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
The sense of lack of energy, lack of motivation.
Yeah.
These are the symptoms of depression.
Yeah.
And we can almost expect that when we're feeling depressed, those levels of interest and motivation will drop as well. And that makes it incredibly hard to get things done that are meaningful and valuable to us. It leads me to wanting to introduce to you a strategy that I'm hoping we can work on together. Have you heard of something called behavioural activation?
No, I've never heard of that before.
No? Okay. Behavioural activation is a strategy that is used commonly in depression treatment to help reintroduce activities that bring us pleasure and a sense of achievement. Things that might have dropped off as a result of us feeling depressed and lacking in interest and motivation. So it's a way of us strategically bringing some of these activities back into our lives. How does that sound to you on first impression?
I'd love to know how to do more stuff. I feel like I've been trying at that for a while and not having any success. So if there's a way to make that happen, that would be good.
Yeah. And it certainly can be really discouraging when we try to put things into our lives. Oftentimes people come in and they say they've been told to, just do something, just do anything.
Yeah.
Have you heard those messages
People
before?
say that to me all the time. They're like, oh my God, go for a walk and, I don't know, just do stuff. And I'm like, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
At least it hasn't been for me. So
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it fits into what we know about depression. We haven't got that energy or that motivation to do it. How does it feel for you when you hear those sorts of messages?
it's really frustrating because, I don't know, I'm just like, do you think I haven't tried that? Like, I don't know. I don't think people get how hard it is and how exhausted I am every single day. Like, it's so hard to do stuff.
Totally.
It's frustrating. Yeah,
absolutely. It's really frustrating to hear, especially when it really, I guess, misses the point about how much effort that you're trying to put in at this point. So behavioural activation is not trying to convey the message of just do something or just do it. When I say it's a strategy, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be strategic about the little energy and motivation that we have and to choose the activities that are going to be the most meaningful to us, that are going to have the most impact on our mood. In some ways, I kind of like to think about it as what are the activities that can give us the most bang for our buck? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So the idea would be that we would be working together to try a lot of different activities to see which ones tend to have a positive impact on your mood. And also in that process, we might discover ones that aren't as reliable in changing or improving your mood. And to do this requires a little bit of curiosity, I suppose, from both of us to explore. Some activities might be things that you used to do, some might be completely new. And in that process, as I mentioned, we might encounter ones that we think, that completely didn't work for us. Is that something you might be willing to give a go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
That's
okay. Again, I really appreciate that you're so willing to have a go at this. One of the things that we know from the research is that behavioural activation is actually as effective as antidepressant medication when it comes to severe depression.
Okay.
So whilst this idea of reintroducing activities into our life can sound quite simple, it's actually a really powerful strategy and something that we're going to spend our treatment working on together.
Okay.
So to start off and to get the creative juices flowing, I've got a worksheet for you that I was hoping we could fill out to plan some activities in your coming week.
Right.
Okay. Is that something you'd be willing to have a go at together?
Yeah, I don't know where to start. Like, I'm not doing anything at the moment, so I don't know if you have some ideas for what I can plan or what I can do. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked because I definitely have a few strategies up my sleeve. So let me pull out the worksheet.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So you'll see on the left-hand side, there's some space for you to plan activities. And on this worksheet, we've got space to come up with 4. by the end of treatment, ideally, we'd be doing at least one of these activities once a day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. At the moment, that can sound like a stretch, like a leap. And we'll do it in a way that helps you to feel supported and helps you to feel confident that you can maintain it on your own. The reason why we encourage daily behavioural activation is, if you think about the chemical antidepressants that we take, if you were to go to your doctor and say, okay, I'll maybe take my medication on Monday, Wednesday, maybe Friday, how do you think that would go?
Yeah, my doctor said I take medication. He said you've got to take it at the same time every day to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to. So that will work with that kind of thing.
Exactly. Our medications only work if we're taking them regularly. So in terms of doing things that are pleasurable and give us a sense of achievement, we're not going to benefit from that effect if we're not going to do them regularly as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we like to describe when we talk about these behavioural activation tasks is we call them behavioural antidepressants.
Okay.
In the same way that you take your chemical antidepressants daily, we also want to be doing our behavioural antidepressants daily as well. I thought we can start there then, in terms of thinking about whether there were things that you used to do that you enjoyed doing that might have dropped off your schedule since you started to feel depressed.
Gosh. Well, I guess when I saw my friends on Friday, I realised I barely see my friends anymore, and I did actually have quite a nice time with them. I didn't feel like going out at the time, but it was quite nice to see them, and I have kind of stopped doing that. So
Okay, so catching up with friends.
Yeah.
Is that something you might be able to organise for this coming week?
Maybe not like a dinner like that. That seems kind of big, but I guess the friend Sarah who called me on Sunday, she sort of said, if you want to do something soon, let me know. So I guess I could message her and see if she wants to catch up for coffee or something.
Great. I really like that specificity. So let's pop that down, calling Sarah or sending her a message to catch up for coffee. Is there a particular day that you think you'd be able to do it this week?
I mean, it's hard at the moment. I could do any day, but obviously most of my friends work, so I guess it might have to be on the weekend when she's more likely to be free then, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get you to write that down so that you've got an idea about the opportunities and when you might be able to put it in.
Okay.
The reason, Olivia, that we want to get as specific as possible is so that it increases the chances that we might be able to get it done. Oftentimes we might have plans to do things. You mentioned that each day you can wake up with lots of plans and that they don't always turn out the way you want them to.
It's going to be a lot.
Yeah. What we find is that if we can specify things like who we're going to do an activity with, when we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, it increases our chances of being able to get it done.
Okay.
And to also identify things that might get in the way.
Okay.
I really like the fact that you were very specific with this first activity that you could try. Yeah. What's another activity that you might be able to try for this coming week?
I used to I have a guitar in my cupboard. I only thought of it because you said what's things that you used to do. I haven't played in years, so I'd probably be a little rusty, but I do remember when I was learning when I was younger. I used to really enjoy that, and yeah, I don't even know if I'd like it now, to be honest. It's been a long time since I picked it up, but it's right there in the cupboard, so I guess that would be a pretty easy thing to try.
Okay.
Would that be?
Yes, let's write that down.
Okay, alright.
So just in that second box there.
Yep. I'm just not sure how long, I don't know what I'd be able to, like how much I'd manage to do, because sometimes I get frustrated with myself or...
Yeah. And one of the things that you might find is if there's something you haven't done in a long time, getting back into it can be quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, we might get frustrated about it.
Yeah.
But we might have thoughts about, I can't play as well as I used to play, and that could get us quite discouraged.
Yeah.
And I suppose the idea about doing these activities is that as best we can, we really bring our attention to doing those activities and participating in them. One of the things that our thoughts can do is really interfere with our ability to enjoy that activity.
Yeah.
Have you noticed what happens when you get really caught up in these thoughts when you're doing something fun?
Yeah. Well, I know, it was interesting when I was taking George, my dog, for a walk this week. I noticed that one of the days I had quite a nice time, and then the other time, I was just, it was right before I had to get this stuff done for the rent inspection. The whole time I was just thinking about how much I had to do, and I didn't feel anywhere near as good that time. So,
and that really demonstrates how our thoughts can impact on our ability to enjoy and participate in an activity. And down the track we'll be developing some more strategies to manage those unhelpful patterns of thinking. At this point, as best you can, let's try and bring our attention towards doing the activity. And I often say that means leaving our expectations at the door.
I'll have to remember that for this one. But the thing I always liked about guitar is I find it hard to think about anything else when I'm doing it, because I have to really focus on it. So I guess that could be good for that.
Yeah, that would be a lovely start. Okay, so in terms of playing the guitar, again, in terms of getting something a little bit more specific as to when you might do it, where you might do it, what's the possible time in your week that you could schedule that in?
Well, there's a few days this week where I don't really have anything on, and I tend to find after I've got up and like had something to eat and maybe done one or two things around the house, I tend to then hit a bit of a slump and go sit on the couch. So I guess I could try maybe playing the guitar then for a bit to do something different. So I guess that would be like around sort of 2 o'clock or so. Does it need to be like a specific time, or?
Ideally, the more specific we can get. As I can see, you know your schedule quite well. And so being able to find those opportunities will increase the chances that we can get them done. So let's pop 1 or 2 p.m. down there. Now, with playing the guitar, is that something that you plan to do a few times this week, or just the one time this week?
I mean, I used to play pretty much every day. I don't know that I could do that. That feels like a lot this week, but I guess I could maybe try sort of every second day, like three times in a week, something like that. Would that be?
Let's set that as a goal. If that's something that you feel is a bit more manageable than aiming for every day, let's put that down. So we've got a couple more spaces, and one of the things that you mentioned is that it's really hard to get in touch with those things that we used to do for fun and for pleasure, especially if it's been a while since we've been doing those activities. One of the things that we find helpful then is to have a few options available to us. By a few, I've got about 365 of them on my list. So my colleagues have, I guess, put together quite a few different ideas in a fun activities catalogue. It can look a little bit overwhelming to start with, I know. I guess it goes to show that different people are interested in different things, and there's no right or wrong activity to be doing. So this is really an opportunity to just get the creative juices going and get in touch with some of the things that we might have been wanting to do for a long time, or perhaps that we had enjoyed in the past but no longer remember that we enjoyed that. So just in terms of time for today, maybe we'll get you to read through the top 20.
Okay.
And see whether, I've got a highlighter there, so you can see whether there are any that tickle your fancy.
Okay.
That you might be willing to try either this week or in future weeks when we continue working on this.
Sure. Okay.
Were there any from that top 20 that stood out to you as things you'd be interested in trying?
Well, there's one in here, sending a loved one a card in the mail. I used to really love sending cards, and I guess I also kind of like doing, I used to like doing crafty things. Like, so I have this box somewhere of stuff to make cards and stuff. I haven't done it in ages, but it's my grandma's birthday in a couple of weeks, so she always used to love when I send her cards. So I guess like that's one that I can kind of see myself maybe having a go at.
Okay, well, that's pretty good timing.
Yeah.
Is the box something that you'd be able to dig out fairly quickly, at least within the next week?
Like, it's just sitting in the top of my cupboard. I just got to the point where I kind of couldn't be bothered and I put it away, but it's fairly easy to get out.
Okay, let's put that down on your worksheet as a third possibility, so you can highlight that and then we can scribble it in.
Okay.
Giving you tons of worksheets there. Okay. And for that last box, I often leave it for an activity that we can do as required. So this is an activity that we can pull out pretty quickly when we notice that our mood has dropped, and that we can use pretty much on the spot. So it might be that I'm going about my day, or I might be trying to run some errands and I notice that my mood has dropped. Is there an activity that you can get to fairly quickly that's quite easy to do that we can put as required behavioural antidepressant?
Okay. I always feel better when I give George a cuddle. Like, would that be?
That's a perfect idea. Yes, absolutely. Let's pop that down as our fourth as required idea. Gets us such lovely opportunities for behavioural antidepressants too.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright.
So that's one to employ anytime you notice that your mood's dropped, if you're out and about or if you're at home. Give George a cuddle, perhaps even look through if you've got photos of George on your phone.
That's a good idea.
That you can do that too.
Yep. Okay. Alright.
How's that list looking, Olivia, as something that you could try this week?
Like, it seems like a lot when I first look at it, but I guess I know I've got time in the week to do it, so I'm willing to have a go at that.
Okay. One of the things that you'll see on the right hand side of the handout is some space to rate your depression, the level of pleasure, and the level of achievement before and after the activity.
Right.
Before you do each activity, I'd like to invite you to write those ratings down for how depressed you were feeling before, how much pleasure and achievement you were feeling beforehand, and then after you do it, to re-rate that. And then we'll bring that in next session to have a look and to compare the effect of it. Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah. And with the, should I do that every time? Like, should I do it 3 times when I play the guitar? And then, every time I give George a cuddle? Or, what do I do for those ones where I do it more than once?
That's a great question. Look, potentially as we're starting out, it might be helpful to make a few ratings. One of the things that we tend to find is that if we get into something for the first time, it might not give us the effect that we're intending. And so we really encourage repetition of these activities. Generally we have a rule of 3, so that we try something 3 times before we decide whether it's something that we keep or something that we check out. Is that something that you'll be willing to do?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. At this point in time, do you think that there are any barriers that might get in the way of you doing these activities?
Well, I know there's been a number of times that Sarah's offered, or like I've got a few friends who've offered to catch up, and sometimes I get as far as making the plans, but then the day comes and I just feel so tired, or I don't know, I'm not feeling good about myself, and I do tend to wind up cancelling plans, because I never really feel like going, to be honest. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned I might fail at the last minute, I guess.
Yeah. And certainly that urge to cancel or urge to withdraw can be really strong when our mood is quite depressed, isn't it? Yeah, and that can get in the way of plans that we've made. Yeah. You've actually raised a really good point there, Olivia, about, I guess, how we look at the impact of motivation and energy on us. So what we tend to find is that many people believe that when we become motivated, that's when we can start doing things. Have you ever found yourself saying, oh, when I feel more prepared, or when I feel ready to do it, then I'll do it. I'll get round to it.
That, you know, all that stuff, like I've got so many loads of washing and I've got to clear out the spare room, and that's what I've been saying for months now, like, wait till that surge of motivation hits. Still waiting at this stage. So, yeah.
And if you had come in here wanting some help to be able to do those tasks and get on with those responsibilities, and I said, well, let's give it more time. Let's wait a bit more and see if the motivation comes along. How do you think that will go?
Well, like I said, it's been a few months now, so I don't know where it's going to come from, you know.
Yeah, we'll probably be waiting quite a long time based on your experience and based on what we know about how motivation works. So whilst most of us believe that motivation comes before action, it's actually the opposite, that action comes before motivation. So I'm curious to know whether there's been a time in which you might not have been feeling very motivated, perhaps quite tired and lacking in energy, yet you had something that you needed to do and you got started, and in the end were able to finish the entire thing. Have you had an experience like that before?
I think that's what it was kind of like with the rent, like cleaning for the rent inspection. Like I've been meaning to clean the house for weeks and just didn't, because I couldn't be bothered, and I literally was forced to this last week because they were coming the next day. And I think once I got started, I was like, I kind of wished I'd done it weeks ago, because it just wasn't as bad as I'd been thinking it would be. Like, it's still a pain, but the getting started seemed to be the hardest part. And then once I was going, it was kind of okay.
Yeah. And that's a phrase that we often hear, that getting started is the hardest part. And that's a brilliant example of how, when you had started doing some of the cleaning, that you were able to then keep going. Yeah. Did you notice anything about your motivation once you started doing it?
Well, it does feel good to, like, because everything was like just such a mess, and then I'd see, you know, I got one area kind of cleared, and seeing that makes me go, okay, well, that's something I've done, and it feels good to see that. So I guess that helps. It helps me keep going.
Yeah. I often find that it's helpful to have personal examples like this, where action has come before motivation, and it might almost become perhaps a small mantra that we can use. In this example, you've talked about being concerned that if you had a coffee date with Sarah and you started having, you know, ideas about cancelling, is there a way that you can bring this to mind?
Well, I guess it's like the dinner on Friday is a really good example of that for me. Like for the last few months, I just don't feel like, I never feel like going out with friends, but there's pretty much every time someone's dragged me out, I've felt better. So I guess I just need to remind myself, like, it'll be good once you get there. Like, you just need to get there, kind of thing.
Yeah. And being able to remember why we're doing this, those positive effects that might come from it.
Yes.
And that action is often the first step before motivation can come along. It can be a few things that we might be able to try to see if that increases the opportunities that you have to do pleasant things in your week.
I think that helps, because I thought if I didn't want to go, that was a sign I shouldn't go, whereas I think now I can't understand, well, that's just the depression, so maybe that's not always the best way to decide whether it's a good idea or not to do something.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a few things to give a go then in this coming week. Have you got any questions before we wrap up today?
I don't think so. I think I'm pretty clear about what I need to have a go at. So,
okay. Yep. Great. Well, I'm really keen to hear how you go with those activities. I'll see you next week then.
Thanks, Adam.